Okay, so we just got done talking about reading an inequality and graphing an inequality. Now let's talk about how we would write a solution to an inequality. Now there's a couple of different ways we can write a solution. One of them is called set builder notation. So to write the solution set x is less than 3, we can use set builder notation and have it look like this. There's a little squiggly bracket, there's an x, it looks like kind of a line, and then the inequality x is less than 3. And you would read it as the set of all x's such that x is less than 3. So the little squiggly is the set of all x's such that x is less than 3. So if they ask you to input it as set builder notation, that's how your inequality answer should look. Or we can write it as interval notation. The other way to write it in interval notation kind of looks like this. So if I want x is less than 3, that means 3 and anything less than that. And it's going to keep going and going and going until you approach negative infinity. Now you can't really touch negative infinity because it keeps going. You can't really include it. So you always use a parenthesis anytime you're talking about negative infinity or positive infinity. So it goes from negative infinity until you hit 3, and then we don't include 3 because it's not equal to, and so we use a parenthesis. Remember, a bracket, a squared off bracket, is when it does equal, and so if it does equal 3, then we would use a squared off bracket. Let me show you a few examples of ones that we kind of already did and how you would write them in interval notation. So if you go back to example number 2a, remember that said x is less than 2. We graphed it on our number line. We used a parenthesis and then anything that was less than 2. So in interval notation, we would say negative infinity to 2 using parentheses on both sides. On B, if we wanted y is greater than or equal to negative 3, we would use a bracket at negative 3 and then anything bigger than that. So in interval notation, it would look something like this. A bracket at negative 3, and then we would go all the way to positive infinity, and then put a parenthesis. So we always read our interval notation from left to right. So if we had this one, C, where x is greater than negative 2, but less than or equal to 3, our interval notation would look something like this, where we want to start at negative 2, but not include it, so we use a parenthesis, and then we go all the way to 3 and include it, so we use that bracket. So a couple different examples of interval notation. Let's practice some more. Here's a little chart that shows you kind of what it would look like in interval notation or what it would look like in set builder notation and comparing it to the graph. That might be helpful as you're doing your practice and your homework. Let's do a few down here. So on example number 3, it says graph t is greater than or equal to negative 2 on a number line and write the solution set using both set builder and interval notation. So we have our negative 2 on our number line, and we want to be greater than or equal to, so that's why I have the bracket, it's equal to, and greater than would be to the right, and so that symbolizes anything greater than or equal to negative 2. So there's my graph. In interval notation, I know that I want to include negative 2 is my lowest number, and then I can go all the way and keep going and going and going to positive infinity. I'm going to use a bracket on my negative 2 because I can equal it, and then I want to go everything to the right of that as we approach positive infinity. Or if I want to do set builder notation, I use my little squiggly, the set of all t's such that t is greater than or equal to negative 2. We label what variable we're going to use, and then we put the inequality statement at the end. Make sure you practice both ways, graphing and then writing it both ways, in interval and set builder notation, because I think your homework is going to ask for both, and it's really important that you practice both ways.